Chapter 7. Wealth Creation. Now that we've explored the best ways to work productively, we can turn to our ultimate long-term objective, wealth creation. This is the best time in all of financial history to be alive. With 5% of the world's population and 5% of the world's landmass, the United States produces 30% of the world's gross national product and owns 50% of the world's wealth. The United States has created more millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires, and multi-billionaires in the last few decades than all the rest of the world put together throughout history. In 1900, there were 5,000 millionaires in the United States, most of them self-made. By the year 2000, there were 5 million, an increase of 1,000 times. By 2008, the number of millionaires in the U.S. increased to 9.6 million, an increase of 92% in 8 years. The largest expansion of personal wealth in history of man on Earth. If anything, even more millionaires are going to be created in the years ahead. In 2020, the United States had a gross domestic product of around $20.93 trillion. In the first quarter of 2021, it grew at an annual rate of 6.4%. That's approximately $1.34 trillion per year. The average family income in the U.S. in 2019 was nearly $69,000. Among the highest in the world, and continues to grow at 3 to 5% per annum, according to the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. The United States is the most entrepreneurial country in the world. More than 2 million new businesses are formed each year in the United States. More people are making more money in more different ways than ever before. More people will become financially independent, if not self-made millionaires, in the next few years than in the last 200 years put together. Your goal should be to become one of them. In this chapter, you will learn some of the most important principles of wealth creation. What millionaires think about. You must be very careful about what you think about, especially with regard to yourself. What do self-made millionaires think about? Thousands of them have been interviewed. Most of them seem to have certain qualities in common. They think over the long term. They make efforts and sacrifices in the present in order to achieve financial independence 10 and 20 years into the future. Unlike most people, they don't spend all their money and a little bit more besides. They practice the 3 keys to financial success: frugality, 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 in their financial lives during their prime earning years so that they can achieve financial independence as early as possible. Many people with average jobs coming from average families who practice frugality find themselves financially independent in their mid-40s or early 50s. Many people who make fabulous livings end up broke at the age of 60 or 65. In Texas, they say, big hat, no cattle. That is, he makes a lot of money, but he's got no assets. Self-made millionaires develop the habit of enjoying the process of saving and accumulating rather than spending everything they make as they go along. They actually get pleasure from saving. They get pleasure from seeing their investments grow, as opposed to most people who get their pleasure from going out and throwing their money around. The Law of 3. The key measure of how well you are doing is your survival rate. The number of months or years that you could support your current lifestyle if you never worked again. Your goal should be to get your survival rate up to 20 years, and this amount becomes your number, your ultimate financial goal. To determine your number, calculate how much you would need to live each month and then multiply that number by 240. 20 years times 12 months. This becomes your long-term financial goal throughout your lifetime. This is your target. The secret to wealth creation has been the same throughout history. Add value. Everyone works on commission. Everyone is rewarded by receiving a percentage of the value they create with their work. The greater results that you get, the more value that you add, the greater your commission will be. Most people start with nothing at the beginning of their careers. Virtually all wealth in America is first generation. Moreover, almost all wealth begins with the sale of personal services, with sweat equity. To achieve financial success, you must continually seek ways to add value to whatever you are doing. Resolve to always put in more than you take out, to add more value than you charge. Always do more than you're paid for. Always go the extra mile in your work. As Napoleon Hill once said, no one can ever stop you from putting in more than you've been paid for, from going the extra mile in everything you do, and it will put you on the side of the angels. There are never any traffic jams on the extra mile. How do you add value in your work? You use the Law of 3. First, make a list of everything you do over the course of a week or a month at your job. You may end up with 10, 20, or 30 large and small things that you do. Second of all, review this list and ask yourself, if I could only do one thing all day long on this list, which one would contribute the greatest value to my business or my career? When I talk to salespeople, I have them ask which one activity would help them the most to double their income. Third, Once you've identified the one activity that contributes the most value, ask the question again. If I could only do 2 things all day long, what would be the second item? Fourth, once you've determined your top 2 tasks, ask the question once more. If I could only do 3 things all day long, what would be the third? In almost every case, your 3 key activities contribute 90% or more of the value that you bring to your work. This is the law of 3. The key to your success is to spend more and more time on those top 3 tasks and dedicate yourself to getting better and better at each of them. Start your business today. 80% of self-made millionaires own their own businesses. They started with little or nothing. They built themselves up and achieved financial success as business owners. Another interesting statistic, fully 90% of businesses started by people with business experience eventually succeeded because they know what they're doing. On the other hand, fully 90% of businesses started by people with no business experience ultimately fail, at least in the short term. Resolve to start your own business today, even if it's only a sole proprietorship. If you build it, they will come. When you start your own business, you will create a force field of energy that will attract into your life opportunities to activate this business. Sometimes I tell people in my audiences to take out their business cards, strike out the title and write in the word president. Then strike out the company's name on the card and write your own, John Smith Enterprises. You are now the president of your own company. America is one of the easiest countries in the world to start a business. It takes an average of 26 hours and using the internet between $25 and $50 for you to be in business. Start a business so you own a business even before you know what you're going to do with it. You can form a sole proprietorship simply by naming it after yourself. If you name it after yourself, you don't even have to register the name to protect it. You do not need permission from anyone to start a sole proprietorship in your own name. If you want to start an S corporation, you can usually do this on the internet at low cost. The advantage of a sole proprietorship or an S corporation is that everything you invest to start your business initially can be deducted against your income as a legitimate business deduction in the current year. The IRS allows business owners to deduct expenses from their income, reducing the amount of tax they have to pay. As an employee with a paycheck, you don't get any of these deductions. As a business owner, you can deduct expenses that you would otherwise pay for with after-tax dollars, such as travel, gasoline, rent, automobile, and meals. For example, in 2021, the IRS allows you to deduct 56 cents per mile that you spend traveling with the hope of meeting people and doing business. If you drive 10,000 miles for business purposes, you can deduct $5,600 from your taxable income. See yourself as the president of your own personal services corporation from now on. Starting your own business is actually a very simple thing. The key is this. Simply find, create, acquire, or offer a product or service at a price that allows you to make a profit. Please understand that in order to start a business, you have to sell something. People who start businesses are astonished at how much of their time they have to spend talking people into buying their product or service. Many of them hold back because they're afraid of selling. What if you're afraid of selling? You're only afraid because you don't know how. Just as you may be afraid of skydiving or juggling with knives, don't allow this lack of learnable skills to hold you back from fulfilling all your financial dreams. Simply get a course, read a book, take a seminar, and learn how to sell effectively. Say, in order for me to start a business, I have to find something I can sell at a higher price than I paid for it. That's been the starting point of every great fortune in history. All business, sales, and money-making skills are learnable. No one starts off with any of these important skills. Doing a business plan, doing a market analysis, writing advertising, budgeting, determining costs and prices, and promoting your business, yet they're all learnable. Nobody starts off knowing them. They learn them over time. The faster you learn them, the sooner you will be successful. Once you learn a business or sales skill, you can use it over and over again. Richard Branson, the serial entrepreneur from Britain, was once asked about this point. He said, "It's all pretty much the same. Once you understand the principles of starting and building a business, you can repeat it indefinitely in every other business." Branson has gone into music, airlines, hot air balloons, and resort development. He takes the same principles, almost like a cookie-cutter recipe, and repeats them, and so can you. Moreover, each time you use a business or money-making skill, you get better at it. You make fewer mistakes and get better results. As I mentioned, people who start businesses succeed at a rate of 90% if they have previous business experience. That's because they know what they're doing. People who start a business with no business experience don't know what they're doing and go broke. Your job is to gobble up business information, learn everything you can, not only before you start your business, but throughout your business career. Courage and skill. The key qualities required to start and build your own business. The major sources of wealth in our world today are courage and skill. Everybody starts off with a lack of courage and a lack of skill. But when you do the thing you fear, the courage comes afterwards. When you use the skill in which you are weak, the ability comes afterward. It's important to understand this point, because many people think, I'll make the call as soon as I have the confidence. As soon as I feel up and strong and courageous, I'll do it. No, that's not how it works. You do what you're afraid of, and the courage comes as a result. People say, as soon as I feel good about prospecting or making calls or calling our customers, I'll get out there. No, you do it with the skill that you have, and additional skill comes afterwards. This is the key to success. A vital part of success in business is to think through what you sell and whom you sell it to. Start off with the question that the owl asks in the dark woods. Who? Who is your customer? Why would your customer buy your product? What does he consider to be a value? It's very important to understand who your customer is and why they buy. What specific benefits does your customer seek in buying your product or service? Is it clear in your advertising, promotion, and presentation that your customer will receive these benefits? Lack of clarity is the primary reason for sales failure. Fuzzy understanding is the greatest obstacle to closing. The prospect is unclear about how they will benefit by buying your product or service, so they say, let me think about it, which is another way of saying goodbye forever. How does your product or service improve your customer's life or work? Remember that according to psychological studies, customers buy because of how they feel they will be afterwards. In other words, if I buy your product or service, what's the likely result? They project forward into the future after the purchase. They must be able to see a clear state of improvement in their minds. They will be substantially better off by buying your product or service than with any other use of the money. Here's a good question. Why don't your customers buy from you? What holds them back? Why do they say no if your product or service is so obviously good for them? What in the customer's perception is causing them to hesitate? If you can identify that problem and remove it, you can often double your sales, double your income, build a successful business, and become financially independent. Who are your competitors? Why does your customer buy from your competitor rather than you? What is the customer's perception? What does the customer see in your competitor that makes his choice more attractive than yours? How can you offset that? How can you minimize that? How can you replace it with something that you do better than your competitors? What is your unique selling proposition? This is a benefit or advantage that you alone can offer to a customer and that he or she is willing to pay money for. What is your competitive advantage? What makes your product or service superior to your competitors? What is your area of excellence? What does your product or service offer that is better than anything else that's out there? These are the keys to business success. If you don't know what makes your product or service unique, if you don't know what makes you superior to your competitors, where you are excellent, you cannot even put together a basic sales presentation. You cannot write an ad. You cannot even identify the customer. Once you start a business, dedicate 80% of your time and effort to selling, to new customer acquisition. Businesses succeed because of one thing, high sales. Businesses fail because of one thing, low sales. If you don't have a lot of money, start small and test each step carefully. Focus on cash flow. Grow slowly out of your cash flow and your profits. You don't have to sell your house and car and risk everything to start a business. You can start a small business with a small amount and learn the necessary skills as you begin to grow. Keep accurate records of all your transactions. Know where your money comes from and where it goes. Many companies will start a business, they'll buy a product or service for 50 cents and sell it for $1. They think they're making 100% profit, but at the end of the month, they're surprised to find they're losing money. They haven't taken into consideration gasoline, rent, utilities, staffing costs, postage, telephone costs, their own salary, meals. They don't realize you can go broke on 100% markup. You need to know where your money comes from and where it goes. Again, make a list. Write down every single penny that you spend and every single penny that comes in. That becomes the basis for your bookkeeping. Or, easiest of all, get yourself a bookkeeping system online and punch in every single number every single day in the proper places. Always concentrate your business on net profits, not gross sales volume. In other words, it's not the top line that matters, it's the bottom line. Focus on how much profit you will have at the end of the day. Make sure that what you're doing justifies the amount of work and investment that you put into it. Always focus on positive cash flow. The most important number in any business is cash flow, sometimes called free cash flow. It is the lifeblood and oxygen to the brain of your business. If your cash flow is cut off for any period of time, your business can collapse overnight. Always be hypersensitive to cash flow. The first rule for success in business is don't lose money. One multi-billionaire said his 2 rules for success are, number 1, don't lose money. Number 2 is, if you're ever tempted, go back to rule number 1. It's better to keep the money in the bank earning interest than to lose it. Because when you lose money, you lose all the time it took to accumulate it in the first place. It's not just money you're losing, it's time. It's weeks and months, and even years out of your life. The stock market. Now let's talk about stock market investing, because that's very popular. Here are some of the rules based on exhaustive research. Number 1 is, self-made millionaires do not make their money in the stock market. In fact, very few people make money in the stock market. Furthermore, 80% of stock market experts with many years of experience are unable to beat the stock market averages over time. Of the thousands of mutual funds which are managed by the most astute financial managers in the world, 80% of them don't beat the averages. In other words, if you took a page of the Wall Street Journal with all of the New York Stock Exchange stocks, you threw darts at it, and you bought stocks where the darts hit, you would do as well as 80% of the greatest financial minds working in the financial markets today. Self-made millionaires do temporarily store their money in the stock market, usually in safe stocks with stable value. These are big, solid stocks like Microsoft and Coca-Cola. They don't bounce up and down much because they sell products and services to large numbers of people. Self-made millionaires spend an average of 6 minutes per day checking on their investments. If you ask a self-made millionaire, how is your portfolio doing? He has no idea because he seldom looks at it. He's just invested carefully and gets back to his main job. Warren Buffett became one of the world's richest men by buying and trading stocks. He is the preeminent stock picker in history. With an estimated net worth of $108 billion in 2021, he recently wrote that there is nothing worth buying in the stock market today. That's because trading stocks does not add value. Going in and out of the market, buying and selling doesn't add any value. The only way that you can acquire and achieve great wealth is by adding value in some way. If you're going to invest in the stock market, the best of all investments is an index fund. These funds track the stock market. They outperform almost all mutual funds, and they have the lowest cost of acquisition and sales. They buy a little bit of all the stocks in a particular index. For instance, they'll buy a little bit of all the stocks in the Dow Jones or the Standard & Poor's or on a particular exchange. And your investment will simply track the averages. Real estate. Another key to money is real estate investing. The ownership of income-producing real estate is a major source of wealth in America. It is possible to buy real estate with no money down, but you require a motivated buyer, someone who is anxious to sell and has no clear idea of what his property is worth. A motivated buyer might be someone who has to sell the house because he has gone bankrupt, gotten a divorce, been transferred to another state, or suffered a major loss. In other words, he's eager to get out of the house and may not know what it's worth. As for investing in real estate with no money down, real estate experts will tell you that you must look at 100 properties before you can find 10 on which you can make an offer. Of these 10, you may be able to purchase one property. It therefore requires several weeks or months of hard work to find a property that you can buy for no money down. You must be careful even in buying foreclosures. Remember, there's no such thing as easy money. You must be very careful with every penny and be very concerned about not losing money. Even if you can buy a foreclosure with no money down, you still have to pay bank fees, mortgage fees, points at closing, closing fees, legal fees, title fees, and a variety of other hidden expenses. All of these have to be paid in cash. Once you own the house, you have to pay all the upfront costs of upgrading, renovating, landscaping, repairs, and advertising in order to find a tenant. If you don't find a tenant immediately, you must pay the monthly operating and mortgage costs out of your own pocket until you do. Many homes or even office buildings that you'll buy at no money down will stay empty for 6 months, and you have to pay all the expenses out of your pocket with cash. One of the best methods to start in real estate is called buy 'em, fix 'em. This consists of buying a rundown house at below market price and fixing it up. Then you either rent it out or sell it and make a profit. The first time you buy and fix up a house, it will take several months, even a year. The second time, it will take less time, maybe 6 months. After 3 years of experience, you can be buying, fixing up, and reselling 4 to 6 homes per year, making a profit each time, at little or no risk. I've met people who started off keeping their day jobs and went from house to house. One couple told me the first house took a year, the second house took 6 months, the third house 2 or 3 months, the fourth 2 months, the fifth 1 month. By the end of the year, they were buying, fixing up, renting out, or reselling a house every month and making about $20,000 to $30,000 per house net. This couple wasn't trying to make $1 million. They worked on the weekends. Eventually, they hired contractors who could do the work for them. They found bankers and financial institutions that would finance them. They had ads running continually to find tenants. They were building a substantial real estate simply by buying and fixing up houses while they kept their day jobs. You can add value to real estate by making it more attractive so that you can rent it out at a higher price, thereby increasing its market value. Or you can sell it and make a profit. The key to success in real estate is to think in the long term, the key quality of self-made millionaires. Never buy a piece of property with the idea that you're going to flip it and make a quick profit. Always think about owning a piece of property for 5 to 10 years before you buy it in the first place. Buying and flipping property is like playing musical chairs with real estate. When the music ends, somebody is left standing up without a chair. Today you find thousands and millions of people who are playing musical chairs and ended up with no chair. They ended up bankrupt, with their financial lives in ruin. Don't let this happen to you. One key to success in real estate is to learn every detail about the property. When you buy a piece of property, imagine you're buying stock in that neighborhood, just as you would buy a stock in a company. Learn every detail about the property, the city, the neighborhood, the local economy, the local schools, shopping centers, and roads. Become intimately familiar with the property before you buy it. Really good real estate speculators will walk through the property and the neighborhood. They'll come at different times of the day, weekends, evenings, and so on. They'll listen for traffic noise. They'll look for traffic. I bought my first house in the summertime. It was well priced. I thought I was getting a good deal. Then the leaves fell off the trees, and all of a sudden, the sound buffering disappeared. It turned out that there was a major freeway about a block and a half away. You could hear the roar of the trucks, cars, and motorcycles 24 hours a day. You had to wear earplugs to sleep because of the noise. Forever after, whenever I bought a property, I'd research the neighborhood carefully to make sure there were no roadways that would drown the neighborhood in sound when the weather changed. The habit of saving. Becoming financially independent is your long-term goal. The simplest way for you to accomplish this is to develop the habit of saving 10 to 20% of your income throughout your lifetime. If you're starting off in debt today, as most people are, begin by saving 1% of your income and living on the other 99%. Once you become comfortable living on 99%, increase your savings rate to 2% of your income, then 3%, 5%, and eventually 10%. Within a year or so, you'll be living quite comfortably on 80 to 90% of your income, saving and investing the balance. If you do this throughout your working lifetime, you'll become a millionaire. This method works, by the way, because human beings are creatures of habit. You get into the habit of spending the amount of money that you're earning. But if you pay yourself first, off the top, and save that money, you get into the habit of living on what you have left. Pretty soon, what seems to be a little difficult at the beginning becomes very comfortable. Then your financial estate begins to grow. Self-made millionaires develop the habit of living within their means. The key to financial success can be summarized in 5 words. Spend less than you earn. Spend less than you earn and invest the difference. 5 don'ts for financial success. There are 5 don'ts for financial success. Number 1. Don't seek easy money or get led astray by get-rich-quick schemes and ideas. Number 2. Don't look for rewards without working. All people who achieve financial success work hard for a long time. Number 3. Don't expect someone else to do it for you. You are responsible. Number 4. Don't trust luck or hope for miracles. They never occur in financial matters. Number 5. Don't expect to be successful the first time. You will make hundreds of little mistakes on the way to developing the wisdom and experience that you need to get and keep a financial fortune. 5 do's for financial success. Let me end this chapter with the 5 do's for financial success. Number 1. Study and understand every aspect of any investments you make for the rest of your life. If you don't understand an investment, don't put your money into it. Number 2. Continually look for ways to add and increase value in every situation. Number 3. Be prepared to get rich slowly. All serious money is long-term, patient money. Number 4. Be frugal with your money at all times. Be careful and thoughtful about how you invest it and spend it. Continually watch your money like a hawk. Number 5. Resolve today to get your savings rate up to 10 to 20% of your income for the rest of your life. And then invest that money carefully. Finally, don't lose money. All money-making skills are learnable. You can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal you set for yourself. Almost everyone who is wealthy today started off poor. By studying what other financially successful people have done in the past and doing the right things over and over, you will eventually get the same results. You will eventually achieve the financial independence you desire and hope for.